Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Welcome back, friend. I'm excited you're here. These episodes, I think I talked a little bit about this in the last couple episodes, but it all feels very topical, very relevant, depending on when you're tuning into this. It is January 2025. We've witnessed several of the most significant natural disasters in the United States history. Locally, here to the United States, I now have a handful of people not in the United States. So I'm speaking specifically about our locale, but I mean, pretty sure we've all experienced some complete and total destabilizing event in the last few years. And the way we move through that experience, whether it's individually or as part of our community, has everything to do with leadership. And my experience with leaders, the people that I like to work with, the people who we create pretty epic success, tend to be visionaries. And one of their biggest challenges is, I think this kind of goes hand in hand with the label, like they can see things other people can't. You can see possibilities, potentials, even problems that a lot of your sort of immediate connections are likely struggling to envision. And that's what sets you apart, my friend. That's why you feel like a lone wolf, the leader of the pack, and maybe even reluctantly so. A lot of my people come from more creative spaces, which can feel a little bit chaotic. They might have felt like they're all over the shop. They've gotten a lot of flack for continually changing their mind and trying new things. And personally, I think those are all superpowers, potentially why you're even here and listening. And also understanding how you work best is the way you optimize success. And what I mean by that is just simply you make it easier to succeed. And that means less input, less stress, less struggle, and better results, more success, the ability to continually grow and endure the growing pains along the way. Some of you might be thinking, I'm recording this because it's the beginning of the Gregorian calendar and we all celebrate New Year's and make all these commitments. But the reality is I get to listen to a lot of different people talk about a lot of different things, especially when it comes to business and careers and growth and just with the nature of my work. And I find that people tend to start hovering around the same topics. And this week in particular, for all of my non-woos out there, we've got the full moon in Cancer today, potentially even like right now. And then we've also got Mars in Cancer. And depending on where that falls in your chart, this is getting a little astro. You're going to be experiencing a lot of emotions and emotions around kind of a clearing. And I'm not an astrologer, so I'm not going to get too into it, but there's some fun stuff to look up if you're curious. So I actually researched and wrote this episode prior to recognizing like the timing that it was all going to come out. And that's kind of what I mean in terms of, I like to just sort of play with the energy. I think there is a little bit that's within our control, but there's a lot that really isn't. And again, leadership to me has everything to do with how you show up despite what is completely out of control or where you feel like you might even be out of control. It's this ability to tune back into that vision, that knowing your desired destination and go, okay, I know I'm on my path simply because here I am. Like I can't really be anywhere else. I mean, technically, theoretically, I'm not going to get into that. But the point is that 2020 hindsight, I look at like these colloquialisms, these little sayings that every culture has. 2020 hindsight is always clear. Whenever we look back, it's clear because we have perspective. We've moved far away enough from that space-time continuum intersection, from that point in our journey, to be able to see very clearly what happened, what went wrong, what went right, why we got stuck there, and how we managed to get to this position. And we take all of that wisdom and that experience and that strength and that resilience with us to the now. But when we don't know how we're going to get to the next point, what feels like a future point on our journey, visioning is incredibly powerful and useful. And it's not it's not always the way I think it's presented out there. Some people tell you want to make lists, you want to get super specific, you want to be incredibly detailed, and that can be really useful. And for someone who's wired the way I am, it actually is. But it has nothing to do with the clarity that I have around that particular vision. It has everything to do with why I'm visioning in the first place. Now, some of you listening, that isn't going to serve you at all. You're much more of, it's about this imaginal space and how that actually wraps you in this feeling of success or satisfaction or peace and calm, potentially even surprise. And so, those are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum where you're really just going for like vibes as opposed to like a detailed schematic plan of like what it's going to look like down to like the leaves on the trees. And I'll share a couple of examples based on my own personal experience, but absolutely people that I've worked with as well. Because this isn't just about like manifestation or goal setting. And I think I've talked a little bit about this in some of the episodes. Everything is changing very fucking dramatically. That's going to include the way that you traditionally set out to achieve and acquire things and experiences you may not have done yet, right? Leadership isn't about having all of the answers. It's about having the presence, perspective, and priorities so that anytime you're trying to make a choice in the present moment, having no idea what's going to happen next, when you can remind yourself who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, it's going to enable you to filter that particular choice through those lenses so you can see what you're meant to be doing next and what makes sense for you now, not what made sense for you 5 minutes ago or what's going to make sense from you tomorrow. And I talk about this in terms of value alignment. I've done a gajillion episodes on values and why I think values is such a powerful way to lead from. And also, unlike Ray Dalio, I do believe our values evolve with us. And the most obvious example is for people who have experienced a recent disaster or tragedy or loss, or potentially a life affirming gain, aka you made a baby. That will instantly change everything that's important to you. And then that enables you to look at this vision. That doesn't have to change, but go, okay, I might be course correcting. I might be changing and adapting my methodology because I woke up today a different person with different values. So it is a very dynamic process, and leaders understand that. In today's world, the best leaders aren't just smart or hardworking. They're tuned into the feels. Like we've used this term a lot, emotionally intelligent, our EQ. And that's because back in the day, leadership and management was presented as this very static, often, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotyped as very masculine, right? Like no feelings. They used to say, don't bring your personal experiences into work. Don't bring your emotions into this conversation. But what we're recognizing now is that this emotional intelligence, this intuitive decision-making, this ability to kind of flow with what is an actual skill set. And it, again, is what separates leaders you will want to follow, AKA you might think about embodying. It'll give you that ideal leadership with heart. This is where inspiration and compelling leadership shows up. And you don't have to ask people really to do anything. You're just doing the dang thing. And it is magnetic. Like people are attracted to that energy because they can feel you. And you're willing to show up in a manner that feels safe and accessible and true, despite like how hard things might be or how impossible the task at hand might appear to be. The misunderstood secret to leadership that yields success, in my opinion, 100% of the time is always coming back to the now and going, okay, where are we at? What do I want? How do I want to do this in this moment? And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the research that I did in order to create this episode. But again, a lot of my people are kind of reluctant leaders in the sense that they're what I qualify as rebels, rule breakers, and trailblazers. They, and myself very much included in this, don't like to be told what to do. They also don't like to go along with the crowd. And this isn't just about being like some anarchist fringe member. This is about leading yourself first and foremost. It's really, really challenging to have an idea or an ideal that you're building in a world that continues to tell you that's not ever going to work here. No one's ever going to want that. And especially when it comes to sharing these concepts with friends and family, potentially your peers, employees, team, because they can't see what you see, they're not going to be able to back you. Therefore, this is when your leadership resources you in a way and your vision encourages you on a level that's going to allow you to exceed, and succeed no matter what. So we're going to talk about why leading from an emotional place is a game changer, especially in today's world. We're going to talk about visioning and go through a couple of visioning exercises for sure. But like, it's not what everybody else out there, at least for me, it's not what everybody else out there is saying. And there's a lot of different experts and techniques and strategies that I've 100% pulled from, both from like the scientific perspective, but then also like the woo perspective. And I think, and I hope what you get out of this particular episode is how to blend these different strategies to support you no matter where the fuck you're at. So if you're like me 3 months ago and your entire life just got washed away, it's going to be a different approach than where I'm at today. And today I'm supporting my friends whose entire life just got burned away. And I have the capacity for that because of this leadership perspective. So lastly, I hope to explore this definition of success for you so that you can understand how it feels. That is going to be the differentiator and the filter that you're now able to use in any given moment to ensure your success. Okay. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to focus on today. So I'm excited. That was just not available to me for a really long time. So first things first, choices, agency, shifting. How can you lead from this emotionally embodied place? So the truth is that this is a relatively new trend in business. And let's just be very fucking real, like capitalism and this whole like concept of like the patriarchy and like a lot of this stuff is also really fucking new. It's just been our whole lives. So we just kind of assume it's the way things always have been. But the reason that I fucking love what I do and the reason I work with the people that I do and we take on these challenges is because we want to do it differently, but importantly, we want to do it our way. It would be much fucking easier to go get a job, my friend. Like the stability and like the, just tune in and turn off. It would be much easier theoretically for people wired the way we are. It's actually impossible. So here we are. And that's why I always encourage everybody to like be the king or queen of your castle. Do it your fucking way. Make up your own rules. Figure out how to optimize your success. And that starts with leading yourself. So command and control leadership is kind of going the way of the dodo. And this is when I talk about things have changed very dramatically and the old way of doing things just isn't going to work or 21st century business and new world business building. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Today, leaders are meant to be networked and connected and empathetic and adaptable and vulnerable. Emotional intelligence or EQ isn't just a buzzword. It's this way of communicating to many that you are here to create trust, you're here for creativity, and you recognize we are living in very, very uncertain times, and we can still build this together. We can still work towards realizing this vision, but it's probably going to take a completely different way of working. Studies by Dr. Daniel Coleman, a pioneer in emotional intelligence, show that EQ is responsible for the 90% differentiator between high performers and their peers in leadership roles. So leaders with high EQ have been shown to increase team performance by up to 25%, and that's according to the Harvard Business Review. These stats are important because what we're doing as these types of leaders is straddling old world and new world. We need to start figuring out ways of communicating and sharing ideas so that people who are still pretty committed to that very structured, regimented, scheduled, measured way of working can also support those of us that are a little bit more like feel into it and go with the flow and tuning into the intuitive hits and energy behind the actions. Like those two together are actually a really fucking powerful team. And some people are going to remain wired for that level of infrastructure and predictability. That's fine. It's never for us to like change people. It's to understand how they work best, especially as, I mean, I say this as from a leadership perspective. When you can understand how your people work best, you're able to speak to everybody in the room. This is level 5 leadership for all of my energy index nerds out there. But there's always going to be a little bit of fear in the room. There's always going to a little bit of a power struggle in the room. There's always going to be that need to understand who's doing what, when, how are we going to know we're successful? Why does this matter? What's so important? And then this vision, this compelling reason to take action, no matter who you are, what your job is, or what your motivations are. That's what I mean when I talk about high EQ and leadership. Think about the leaders who inspire you the most. And there's a whole module on this in the Anti-Business School, which is like online for free right now. So I encourage you to check it out. But there's some really cool, fun exercises you can do to help develop any leadership skills you may feel like are lacking or potentially you just want to harness. I love doing like a sort of good old fashioned avatar design, character development in terms of leadership and tuning into people who are really inspiring me now. What I have noticed personally are the old podcasts that I listened to, the old books that I was obsessed with, the sort of OG leaders, Ray Dalio being an example, like they're kind of not doing it for me in this moment. And that's not to say I won't come back around, but I seek out my inspiration from these writers and these speakers, and it has everything to do with how they make me feel. And some of these people are just boring the shit out of me, or it feels like very irrelevant in this moment. And that's okay. All that means is that I have stepped up to this whole new level, and I need to find people who are able to expand the way that I think and the way that I feel in new and exciting ways. Like it's pretty cool. And that's, go to Barnes and Noble, wander around, read a few pages of a book if you're a nerd like me, or like tune into some new podcasts and just open up to some of these characteristics. Like, what is it about that person? Some of the people that are really inspiring me right now are kind of messy. They're honest and they're brave enough to say things I'm not hearing a lot of other people say. Some of the writers are bringing this level of satire to tragedy that makes the tough stuff feel palatable. And these are kind of like, I don't know, esoteric concepts out there, but it's really challenging me to push myself to a level that I haven't ever felt comfortable or even deserving of performing at. There's also this level of quality that I'm tuning into, and it's been a real challenge, but in the best of ways. So when you think about the type of leader you would want to follow, or perhaps it's even an older past mentor or influencer, teacher, guide, even, guru. I don't know how you feel about that word, but someone that really lit you up. What was it about them? What characteristics? How did they make you feel? That's what I want to hone in on. And then, check out the leadership quadrant in the Anti-Business School to really understand a strategy for developing those skills in yourself. Let's talk a little bit about the science of visioning and potentially what's being misunderstood. And what I'm really tuning into is there's this like literal translation we're all very tempted, myself 1000% included, to use because words are meant to convey information, right? But I challenge you, especially when you're listening to me in these episodes, because you know everything. How do those words make you feel? There's going to be energy behind the words, behind the actions, and that is what is truly being communicated. This is where things get really interesting because I'm sure you've done visioning exercises. We've all been there at this point, right? And you've imagined your future success in vivid detail. Maybe you pictured your dream house or a thriving business or even standing on stage and potentially it's in front of thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, or perhaps you're being awarded something that you'd only ever dreamed about. The thing is, and I don't see a lot of people talking about this, is it doesn't matter what image you're creating. When you tune into yourself in that experience, how do you feel? That's the crux of this exercise. Neuroscience tells us that our brains don't differentiate between imagined experiences and real ones. I've used this a lot in talking about fear. And like your brain doesn't know the difference between someone chasing you down an alley with an axe and like someone cutting you off in traffic or someone sending you a shitty email. Your body is going to have the same physical experience and you're going to respond as if this is a life or death situation as a result. One of my clients was just talking to me about this. This person is fighting fit. And yet, they're having some heart issues and they're having a whole litany of like physical challenges as a result because they're living every day like it's their last. And there's something about that energy that is addictive. And it's not just the like cortisol and adrenaline dumps that you're experiencing. There's a dopamine hit that occurs as well and an oxytocin rush in your brain when you force yourself to be the superhero in any situation. And there is so much that comes with this, especially as a business owner and as a leader. There's an addictive quality to wanting to solve all of the problems, to thinking we're the only one that can do it. I talked a little bit about this in Delegation and Ready, Not Ready, the last episode. Potentially, these episodes always come out when they come out. But tune into when you're using that level 1, level 2 energy to fuel your fire. Because that is like pouring a giant fucking container of gasoline on a fire. Like it's going to burn out real damn quick. What we want is a slow, sustainable, smoldering core of heat that you can literally use to burn 24/7. And that doesn't come from like a quick burst. That comes from sustainable, slow, methodical, persistent, consistent, whatever kind of shows up for you, whatever works for you, ways of continually adding to that fuel. And at the end of the day, it's how that fire is going to make you feel. Like if it burnt your face off, that's not exactly what we're going for. If you can, stay warm and stay warm enough despite the cold and the heat or the cold and the ice. I'm getting a little lost in this analogy. I'm going to move on. But that's the feeling that we're really trying to harness. And so these visioning exercises at the end of the day are not about the vision. It really isn't about, Neville Goddard's imaginal techniques, which are a really fun way to kind of start or end your day, then just check back in. It's about how you feel, because the research shows that emotions like gratitude, joy, pleasure, success, satisfaction, even peace and calm, they activate your brain's creative centers. And this is going to make you more resourceful and more resilient. But this is what I talk about when I mean climbing up the energetic ladder. When you can lead from that level 5, 6 place, that's where your innovative, disruptive, game-changing solutions to these intractable problems, your level 1, 2, the fear and the force are like forcing. It's going to be the difference between you're creating an either or, you're creating like a cornucopia of opportunities. It's not the vision of success that matters. It's the feeling that it gives you. That feeling of accomplishment or pride or freedom. What's the highest benefit that you see? That's what fuels your clarity and your creativity and your determination. That's what will enable you to climb up a steeper hill in a manner that allows you to get to the ascent, to the peak, and then see how much further you can go. You're not chasing the goal. You're achieving a state of being. And when you can operate from there, despite the fucking shit show, firestorm, whirlwind swirl that's happening around you, that, my friend, is leadership. So actually, let me just offer you this. Perhaps just play with, instead of visioning specifics, focus on how achieving it will make you feel. And then ask yourself, how can I embody that feeling today? And that's what people mean when they say like, go live that abundant lifestyle or make decisions from a place of abundance. Like, sure. But really, like if you can just tune into like, I have what I need, right? I feel safe. I feel secure. I've got my coffee. I've got some water. I've got all this technology. I'm able to do my work in this moment. Like, maybe that's the abundance that we're talking about, not going and like spending $150 on dinner or lunch or 300, whatever that number might look like for you. That could be playing with abundance. Again, it's going to look different for everybody. A lot of people step up to that plate and then feel really guilty and freaked out. So just like tuning into that without judgment, that's what I mean is like, what is the energy behind the actions? We can truly feel everything we need to feel in this given moment. Now, when you can build and create and lead from these desired emotions, everything gets easier. Everything shifts. There are a ton of different leaders and writers. I'll link to a couple of them in the show notes, but I don't know if it's useful for you. I find it really useful to remind myself about some of these people who have changed the world despite the impossibilities of their own personal circumstances. And individually, a lot of us are getting to play with that in this particular moment. But I challenge you to, in this leadership exercise, perhaps look at some more historical figures as well, who with 2020 hindsight, we can see what they achieved. But for the most part, their lives were pretty much fucking hard and austere. And they were told all day, every day, that's impossible. But they just put one foot in front of the other and truly lived from this place of, I can create anything. And I'm doing that in this moment, despite it looking like failure or loneliness or fatigue or burnout. They found a fuel to their fire that allowed them to sustainably burn. And they changed the damn world. So what might shift for you in this moment? Seriously, right now, just pause it. If you just felt successful, whatever that emotion behind success is, would that change what happens next for you? The next conversation you might have, or the next activity you might take on. It might change the rest of your day entirely. You might not even continue on with the plan that you think you had. So, fun little game to play. Let me know how it goes. Lastly, let's talk about some of these practical exercises that I offered at the beginning, because I mean, look, let's be real. I'm full of this shit. You can go back and listen. You could probably just like close your eyes and pick any episode out there, and there's going to be a handful of different strategies out there for you to play with. But firstly, and most easily, I like to, especially in episodes like this, to give you some like very accessible, AKA free, and you can do it right now in very little amount of time to actually test some of these methodologies. Because again, it's never for me to tell you what to do. It's absolutely for you to take what really resonates with you, what kind of leaps out. I find myself zoning out, I would say like 90% of the time. But when something catches my attention, I know that there's something there for me, especially when I'm listening to like podcasts and reading. And I will kind of go back. So anytime that happens for you, I encourage you to really kind of zone in. So again, 3 exercises, hopefully one of them hits. Firstly, something you can do every morning. I did it myself this morning. When you wake up, just sit up straight in your bed. And you can put your hand on your heart. I like to do that because it like brings my awareness down into my heart, and kind of wherever you're at on your own journey. I think we can all recognize like heart feels, right? And just tune into what you're grateful for. I am in bed right now. I haven't jumped out. There aren't screaming people needing me in this exact moment. And we can be grateful for that. I have a body. It's working. I get to think. I'm going to go do whatever happens next. That's pretty cool. If it serves you, you can write down some of these experiences that you're grateful for. But this is where it starts, because what you're saying is, I can access what I need instantly. I can resource myself. I can feel into my security, my safety, my own love and gratitude. And from there, truly anything is possible. And you have the ability to tune into that truly in any moment. But to start your day off like that, incredibly powerful. Again, 2 minutes, free, you can do it. And a consistency there, I would really love to hear how it changes you. I know for me, when shit starts getting really banana bonkers, that is an absolute fucking game changer. It doesn't for me. It doesn't happen instantly. It usually takes, I mean, in this last instance, it took about 2 months, which might sound like a really long time. I have been doing something like this for 20 years. And what it gives me is this faith that things will pass, like things will shift. This too shall pass. And I've done it enough to know it's actually that simple. Now, if you're at the beginning of this journey or at a really, really hard place in your journey and you don't have something like this, try it for 3 days. Try it for a week and just see. You don't have to do anything else. There were moments in my life where I would not get out of bed for weeks at a time. I had significant mental health challenges. And that was when this was a truly pivotal exercise for me, because one day I just woke up and felt better. And the only thing I could give it to were these types of practices, just a few minutes at the beginning of every day to just feel grateful for waking up. So, secondly, a responsive versus reactive leadership pulse check. So anytime something pops into our experience and it freaks us the fuck out, you're going to be able to sense that. Your heart races, you feel a little sweaty, mouth sweats. My mouth sweats. It's weird. Maybe you get sweaty other places. You start talking really fast. I've noticed that when something like this occurs and I start stressing out, I start moving really quickly. I start pushing myself. I go, we got to get this done. We got to go faster. There's so much to do. We don't have enough time. That dialogue for me is my instant cue. Whoa. So just start to tune into when your reactivity is showing. And before making any tough decision or choice at all, let alone having a conversation with somebody else about it, let alone taking action, take a beat, pause. Ask yourself, am I reacting out of fear or am I responding with clarity? It's really fucking simple. And I'm going to challenge you. I talk a lot about this for the level 2 energy. If there's a binary, if you're dealing with an either or, there's going to be some fear in there. No judgment. There's nothing fucking wrong with fear, everybody. Please, for the love of anything creative and potential possibility, there's nothing wrong with fear. The sooner you can actually look at it and sit with it, the sooner you will release it. And you do that enough times, it will be completely gone. New fears will show up for sure, especially if you're into this development game with me. But building, creating, leading out of fear will never yield the results that feel optimal, that feel like success. It will create action. Things will get done, but measure those results. You've got plenty of experience with that. I can guarantee you. And I'm willing to bet that the quote unquote mistakes, AKA the wonderful learning opportunities you had, came from making a decision out of fear, air quotes, like scarcity, doubt, judgment, comparisonitis, keeping up with the jump, whatever it is, right? So push yourself to discover, where am I right now? It might not be in a place to lead, and that's fine too. There's plenty of bullshit we can do in our day-to-day lives that have nothing to do with leadership. I encourage you, if you need to stay busy and active, tune into one of those things, right? And when we are able to regulate and tune back into our experience in a way that feels safe and secure and resourced, that's when we can start to climb up that energetic ladder and get responsive rather than reactive. So lastly, this is a powerful meditation, and I'm not going to take you through the whole thing. Again, everything I've ever created is online right now for free. So we do this once a month in the Psychic Profit Squad, which is a whole sort of like cash flow, money management check-in that I do. And we take 5 minutes to meditate. It's one of my favorite meditations, but I do it as a 5-part meditation, and you can do this. You can set a little timer, but essentially you sit, you take a couple of boxed breaths, you do whatever you need to do to just kind of tune in, right? Secondly, you start to imagine this vision and you think about all of the ways it makes you feel, right? Third, you then tune into the people in your experience, the ones that you love, the ones that you connect with, the people that make you smile, the people that make you happy. You can see what we're doing. We're really like stoking this fire of just feel goods. Then lastly, you imagine this vision is already done. So it is complete. You've already achieved it. And then you spend that last kind of few minutes coming back into your body, knowing that you've already achieved everything you need to set out there, everything you've set out to do. You are successful, you are satisfied, you are fulfilled, you are calm, you are peace, and you come back. That's it. That can literally take 5 minutes. It's another complete fucking game changer. Each one of these opportunities. So starting with a little gratitude practice, doing a sort of responsive versus reactive pulse check, or these sort of future state visualizations, less than 5 minutes. You can do it guided or not. And it's free. So no excuses, my friend. The big takeaway here is success doesn't start when you reach your goal. It starts with how you feel right now. When you lead with heart and embody these feels, this energy, that's how you match up with the success and then create it. That's what people mean when they talk about manifestation. It's again, not about the material, superficial results. And believe me, you, my friend, I get it. It is way different experience when we feel like we have the resources and the abundance and the prosperity and the freedom and the agency to do whatever the fuck we want. And that's cool. For sure. Don't get me wrong. The thing is like that actually exists. This is an actual meditation. I did not do this on purpose. I'm telling you, this is an actual alarm I've set for meditate. It just helps me tune into my own. To ask me what if I'm thinking future self thoughts or past self thoughts in this moment. I'm going to go future self. I promise you I didn't plan that. Anywho, when you lead from this embodied state of success, of achievement, firstly, people fucking feel that. You know what it feels like? It feels like confidence. It feels like that compelling action. It feels like I'll have 2 of what she's having, right? This is when you don't have to tell people what to fucking do and you don't have to threaten them or give them ultimatums. Like you just lay it out there and you do it from the space of it's already done. Even trying, one of my meditation teachers told me once, intention is success. This is what they mean. This is what we're all talking about. So you unlock a whole new level of leadership and creativity and problem solving when you can do this reframe. You know, a lot of my clients roll their fucking eyes because the amount of reframes that we do, but that's why they're so powerful. Great leaders don't wait for the world to give them permission to succeed. They embody success in every decision, every moment, every day. And I don't want to say like all of the time forever because there is so much power in tuning into that fear and that vulnerability that definitely shows up for these leaders as well. They just don't act from there. That's the difference. So how are you going to show up for the rest of this day? I would love to know. That was fun. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. You know, we're doing this. We're doing the dang thing. I'm super proud of you. I'm super fucking grateful for you. You know that I do this for you. Any questions you have, anything you need, NicoleBZ.com.